About a month ago, I made a video where I thought I had uncovered Peak's entire story. But with this game's new update, I realized that I have missed out so much. I have found out so much more about the lore of Peak, but everything is connected to the only thing I didn't think was important. Bing Bong. I can't believe I'm saying this, but by the end of this video I will prove to you that the Scout's plane crashing onto the island is actually a massive massacre organized by the airport, and that Bing Bong is secretly a god. This is the second video where I talk about Peak's lore, so if you're new or have no idea what Peak even is, then I recommend you start with the first video. I think it's great at explaining everything about the game for those who haven't heard of it before. I will put a link here in the corner if you want to watch it. But I do have to admit, I made that video really quickly, and people told me my voice sounds a little bit boring in that one. So for this video, I will try to quickly recap everything that was important from the first video. If you've seen my previous video already, please feel free to skip ahead to where I talk about the new stuff if you want. But with all of that finally out of the way, let's begin. So everything starts when a group of scouts begin an expedition. Here in the airport is where they can get ready and prep up for their trip. The airline they use is named Bing Bong Airlines, after their mascot Bing Bong. The group of scouts begin boarding their flight, and soon they take off. But suddenly, out of nowhere, their plane crashes. It turns out that the plane crashed on a mysterious island. They get up and wonder what they should do. Luckily, through the plane debris, they find a guidebook telling them how to survive. This book is written by Scoutmaster Myres. He says that in case of a plane crash, the scouts should make their way to the peak so that they can get rescued. The Scoutmaster also stresses everyone follows Rule 0, never abandon a friend in need. Most people by now know what's going to happen to scouts who leave their friends behind. But anyways, the scouts begin their way up the mountain in front of them. At the summit of every biome they need to climb through, they find a smoking unlit campfire. It's strange how it looks like it was just used, but the scouts don't have time to think. Sometimes the scouts find papers around the campfires. These additional pages were written by Scoutmaster Myres, meaning he was also on the island. As the scouts continue, they find more and more pages, which will slowly reveal what happened to the Scoutmaster on this island. As the Scoutmaster and his group was climbing to the peak, at one point he tried eating a fruit that made him fall asleep. But when he wakes up, he realizes that his group decided to leave him alone to die. The Scoutmaster begins going into denial, but he eventually turned mad living by himself on the island. In his last note, he obsessively writes Rule 0 over and over, slowly turning crazy. This is a surprisingly sad story for a silly game where you have fun with your friends. This turns out to only be the beginning because there are way more things we can learn and find in the game. For example, what happens if a scout decides to break Rule 0 and leave his friends behind? Well, this scout left his team, so let's see what happens to him.
I have a feeling they're this side of the mountain. I'm trying to find you guys!
Suddenly it begins to get dark and staticky.
My screen's going staticky. Guys, I'm scared. I think there's a monster. Oh my goodness, there's a monster! No! No, what is this? No one told me this was a scary game!
This monster looks a lot like Scoutmaster Myres, except he looks more like a lanky skeleton of the man he used to be. It turns out that somehow, when he died on this island, he sorta came back to life like this. Now he lives on this island and only appears when someone breaks his most important rule. He's gone so mad that he became a monster consumed by his anger for being left behind, remaining only to get rid of those who have no respect for others. So this is probably who has been lighting campfires around the island. It is important to mention that the Scoutmaster will only appear to scouts who break his rule, so maybe he's not entirely mad. He still tries to leave the scouts alone if they behave. But there is also another unusual thing. How was he able to come back to life or turn into a skeleton? Well, it turns out that there is something magical about this island. If any of the scouts die along the climb, when at least one of them makes it to one of the campfires at the end of an area, and there is a statue that brings all the scouts back to life. And this statue also gives a magic item. Some of these items defy gravity, others mess around with mortality. But either way, it seems that this island is a magical place that bends the rules of mortality and is filled with magic treasures. And this is also seen by the fog that surrounds the island. From the start, the fog chases the scouts, and if any of them aren't fast enough, then they will die. The fog also blocks the scouts from the next biome they are supposed to go through, and this fog will only go away if all the scouts light the campfires. The fog seems to be another magical force that tries to stop the scouts. Also, it's strange that there are statues and temples made on this island. There must have been some people who used to live on this island who made these structures. But where did they go, and just what exactly is going on this island? It seems like everything on this island is out to kill the scouts, and there's a lot to uncover. In my last video, I talked about what I thought everything meant. I said that the island could be something like the Bermuda Triangle, a place where planes and ships crash for no apparent reason. Through the entire island, there is lost luggage everywhere, showing that there have been hundreds of crashes on this island. The island's magical force attracts people, and then the fog consumes the survivors of the crashes. It is brutally hard to reach the peak, showing that only the strongest can survive, and the rest are left for the fog to feed on them. I ultimately said that the island was trying to protect its magical items, but with the new update to the game, I've realized that I was completely wrong. So now, finally, let's look at all the new stuff to uncover, and find out all the secrets that will give us the full story. Let's talk about who built all the structures found around the island. The island has statues of hikers or temples made out of stone, which shows that a long time ago a group of ancients used to live here. The temple especially looks very much like a place the ancients could have practiced worshipping and spiritual ceremonies. The statues, on the other hand, can be found around the campfire at the top of each biome. These statues could depict the scouts, but I think they are meant to show a more general image of the travelers. These statues can be used by the scouts to revive dead allies, and will reward the scouts with magical items. But let's look back to the temple. The temple sits right next to a huge tunnel leading into the volcano at the center of the island. This tunnel is clearly not natural, so it was made by the ancients. It leads into the only biome that has a specific name, the kiln. The kiln is a unique name for the volcano, so maybe this is what the ancients used to call it. It could be called the kiln because it's the hardest challenge, and it refines the people who ascend it. The kiln is the final challenge of the island. At the peak, the ancients who survived the kiln can find a treasure. And at the peak there is a single statue holding a unique gem. This could be interpreted as the ultimate final reward originally meant for those who complete the journey and reach the summit. There is no in-game purpose for this gem, so it must only exist for the lore. But now let's shift our attention to the new stuff. This update released an entire new biome called the Mesa. It's another deadly place filled with scorpions, terrifying ant lions, a scorching heat, and tornadoes that can easily blow the scouts away. But what many people don't know is that there is actually a secret tomb in this biome. It's ridiculously hard to find since the location of the tiny entrance always changes, and most of the time it doesn't even show up. If a scout manages to find a hole or an entrance near a wall, it will lead to an entirely new area. The game gives a title screen to the tomb, showing that this is an entirely separate area from all the other biomes. Along the walls there are huge statues that are identical to the one at the peak holding the strange gem. This place must have been built by the ancients. There are also cave drawings showing the ancients understood how the island's magical items could revive dead people. These references to death and life show the strong magic that is on this island. The ancients clearly have a strong understanding of this magic, and it is a huge part of their ancient culture. This makes sense since they are the ones who built the statues found all over the island that can revive dead scouts. Now, right before reaching the tomb, there is an enormous pitfall where the scout must parkour along the walls to get to it. If the scouts manage to get across the almost impossible pitfall, they can finally see what's inside the tomb. The tomb is eerily dark with an important looking thing in the middle. This item, the ultimate prize of the tomb, is actually a golden idol which makes whoever holds it invincible. But wait, this idol looks familiar. It happens to look exactly like the airline mascot Bing Bong. The golden idol and the airline plush both make identical sounds when they are picked up as well. Coincidence? I think not. Both depictions show the character wearing a cap, which is similar to the caps worn by the statues all over the island. Perhaps these caps were actually worn by the ancients as some kind of culture or ritual. However, the character depicted by the golden idol clearly predates the Bing Bong Airline company and is not found anywhere else on the island or in the world. This means that the Bing Bong character came from the culture of the island. This creates a deep, intimate connection between the airline company and the island. Not only is the airline company aware of the character depicted by a golden idol, but they explicitly choose to make that character their mascot. This emphasizes its importance to them, just as the golden idol displays the importance of the character to the ancients who built the tomb. There is evidence of more modern items on the island which couldn't belong to the ancients, meaning whoever founded Bing Bong Airlines used the treasures found on the island to establish the airline company. Now, airplanes operated by this company are crashing on the very same island. There must be a deeper reason for why this is happening, and if you are willing to indulge me, I have a theory. It's clear that the ancients of this island were worshipping something. They made statues, temples, protected treasures, and built a tomb. A tomb for who the airline calls Bing Bong. All the evidence points towards this idea. Bing Bong is secretly some kind of god or deity, and the ancients used to worship him. They even built a golden idol of him made entirely out of gold to show their love for him. But I don't think Bing Bong was a kind deity. Perhaps someday some explorers arrived on the island. The ancients welcomed them, sharing their magical items with them. Maybe Bing Bong was mad that they did this and unleashed a great force known as the fog. The fog consumed the island, killing all of the ancients and only leaving their old structures. Now, another new thing that was secretly added in an update was the looker. It was a scout-like person that would pop out sometimes, just watching you. But even if this looks like a scout, I think it's significant that it doesn't wear a hat. I think the looker could resemble many of the people that have died on this island, including the ancients. I think the looker is a ghost of the memories of the people who died, and this is also proof that when you get closer to investigate, the looker immediately disappears. So as I was saying, the fog killed all of the ancients and only left their old structures behind. And ever since then, the island has been cursed, surrounded by fog so that no one could ever obtain the magic treasures hidden on the island. That should have been the last anyone would have ever heard of this island. But one day, the founder of Bing Bong Airlines crashed onto this island. It's a stretch, but I think that they could have been part of the same group as Scoutmaster Myres. Scoutmaster Myres was the only one who knew what to do in case of an emergency situation like this. He said that they should make their way to the peak to get rescued. But at one point, you know what happened. Scoutmaster Myres didn't know everything about the magic island, and he accidentally ate a fruit that put him to sleep. The founder and the other scouts decided to leave Scoutmaster Myres to die on the island. The Scoutmaster was consumed by his anger, and with the magic of the island he became an undead monster consumed by his hatred for the people who break Rule Zero. The founder, on the other hand, took the Scoutmaster's knowledge and used it to escape the island. But maybe to escape with the island's treasure he had to make a deal with Bing Bong. Now the people who watched my last video know that I made a big deal about how much luggage there is all over the island. This shows that there must have been thousands of crashes on this island. But one thing I haven't realized is that most of these suitcases contain food from none other than Bing Bong Airlines. This proves that most of the luggage on the island is from people who have crashed while traveling with Bing Bong Airlines. But wouldn't the airlines know if so many of their planes kept getting lost on this island? I sense a conspiracy theory coming. You see, I believe that the Bing Bong Airlines are purposely making their planes crash onto this island. That's right. The airlines obviously know that so many of their planes keep crashing onto a mysterious island. I believe that the founder who used the island's treasure to build his airline company was only let to leave the island by Bing Bong with one exception. That if he was allowed to take Bing Bong's treasures, the founder would have to worship him and bring him sacrifices. The founder agreed, built up his company, and is now secretly using it to send unsuspecting customers to their demise on the island. I know it's crazy for a silly little game like this, but all the evidence is right there on the island. The founder of Bing Bong Airlines is literally creating a full-on massacre to feed the Bing Bong deity. But in the end, I'll let you, the viewer, choose what you want to believe. Maybe Peak really is just a fun game to play with your friends. Or maybe there is a subtle hidden story full of secret horrors and a malevolent deity that hungers for victims to die on his island before they can escape. Thank you so much for watching. And for those of you who saw the first part, thank you so much for over 100,000 views on that video. That is the most I've ever gotten, and I do sincerely apologize for the audio quality on that video. When I found out that I could find a new lore in the update, I decided to make a part 2 as a thank you to all of you who watched. I think this is finally the end for the lore of Peak, so for future videos I will try to make videos on trending games and movies, so you can subscribe if that interests you. Once again, thank you to everyone, and I hope to see you guys again in future videos.
Jonathan Frisbee spawns wherever he likes.
I've...
Don't worry, Jonathan Frisbee will get us out of this pinch.